You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower in absolutely frigid Northport, Florida, but it is absolutely gorgeous out there right now. Just a reminder, on your way home, stay out of the hospital, keep it under 80, and relax. Just chill out on the road. There's no reason to kill somebody today and no reason to put yourself in the hospital. So stay safe, drive carefully, and just take your time. Family is too important not to get home to. So, something amazing happened this weekend. We had a wonderful time at Twisted Fork, and then another amazing day happened, which was Saturday. And I just happened to be part of the Care Ball. And Amy, I walked by Amy and I was like, holy cow, who's that princess over there? And she was amazingly dressed. And you can check out her pictures on Facebook through the Care Ball and all those things. But Amy is a guest on my show all the time. And I'll just let you do a quick intro and then tell a little bit about the experience at the Care Ball.
Well, I'm Amy Huddleston. I'm the communications coordinator for CARE, the Center for Abuse and Rape Emergencies. Do a bunch of everything over there. But the Care Ball was amazing. We're actually at the same venue from Saturday, and it is phenomenal, the turnover here. But it was a great time. We had lots of performers. We had lots of dancing, lots of fun to see everybody in the community. We had about 600 plus people here.
Wow.
And it was a good time to see everybody dressed up and raising money for a great organization, giving back to survivors.
Absolutely right. So, along those lines, we had a friend of ours come in and asked to be part of it. And it's Chris Coy. You want to give a little bit about your background?
Sure. I'm Chris Coy. I'm an actor, lots of television shows over the years, Walking Dead, The Deuce, that sort of stuff. But I grew up here locally and had always kind of heard of CARE over the years. I think I found out the other day it was like 34. Right. Yep. So as long as I've been alive, essentially, you guys have been helping people out. And just moved my family back into town 6 months ago, and the community kind of reached out and said, would you be interested in participating or getting involved? And I couldn't be happier to be a part of it and allow myself to be utilized in any way possible to just bring more attention to it. And I think it's such a worthy cause. And also, if we can come party and at the same time help a bunch of people like we did the other night, those are great nights.
We have lots of events throughout the year, so stay tuned to our social media at CARE Charlotte County.
Absolutely, and being part of the organization, you were just telling me. We really didn't talk about it Friday night, but you did some similar things in New York, correct?
Yeah, yes, sir. Over the years, ever since I did season 1 of The Deuce on HBO, I got involved in the Sex Workers Project. You loved The Deuce?
I love that show.
So I was Paul. I was the bartender.
No way.
Yeah. But through that show, they put us in touch with the Sex Workers Project there in New York City. And they would send us out into little satellites into the city, and I would secret celebrity bartender, and all the money that I made that night would go towards the organization, and we held other fundraisers for them as well. And but again, any organization really where we can get in there and really help people and make sure that the money is going to the right place. And I was raised by 2 survivors of domestic abuse, and so these sort of causes, I think, really hit close to home for me, and it makes it easy for me to dedicate my time.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate you dedicating your time to us today.
I appreciate you guys.
Well, being in New York too, there was a lot of chaos in New York at times,
sure.
I imagine, compared to here, where you grew up, because they're 2 totally different cities. Mm-hmm. When you went out and you did all those things in the community, what was the reception that you had when you went out and did it?
Well, I think that's what's probably the most incredible thing about any proper cause is that it doesn't really matter where you are. The sensation you get or what you come to realize or recognize is that people are good. People want to do the right thing. People want to help each other. And so whether it was in New York or I was involved in another organization when we lived in Pittsburgh, I was on a show there for a while called Banshee. And while we were there, again, the point being that whether it's organizations I've been involved in Los Angeles or Pittsburgh or New York City or here locally, if you're trying to help people and you're trying to do the right thing, people come out of the woodwork to lend a hand. They really want to contribute and participate. So, I would say that really it was similar. It might have been more concentrated. Sure, there's 12 million people
Absolutely.
in the city.
Absolutely.
but,
Absolutely.
But same. I mean, if we could turn this camera around, you just see like a whole room of people that are here trying to help.
Well, and here's one of the things, and I'll tell you this up front. My plan was to walk through and show people what's happening today. But here's the thing about survivors. When you have a room full of survivors, you can't televise them.
Yes.
And you really have to keep them safe. As a real estate agent, we talk about homes being safe, sound, and secure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you can apply those 3 same rules to a survivor because you want to keep them safe, sound, and secure.
Right.
And anybody who's gone through it really has a tough time. It's an emotional situation that they have to go through. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of vendors here today that participate in hands-on helping you guys move one survivor forward at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what does it mean to your organization to have partners in the community like this?
So basically, this event today was to highlight all of everybody else, because with CARE, yes, we do work with abuse victims, and we do sometimes get a human trafficking victim in our services and whatnot, but we're here to mainly highlight the fact that Florida is number 3 in human trafficking.
And we talk about that a lot.
One of our presentations earlier today was, Hillsborough County, which is just north of us, is like 13th ranked in the entire country of human trafficking.
Wow.
So we're here to highlight not only the survivors, our presentations, our presenters and all that, but all of the services that everybody else offers, because there's different tables around the room, which we're going to bring some people over and talk about their organizations, but it's really about what they do. Like we were just the hosts. Like, yes, we want to come together and we want to, be able to showcase all these people, but we have everybody from communities. We have people from churches. We have people from mental health, law enforcement, just trying to raise community awareness and get the conversation going to help end human trafficking. Knowing the signs, knowing what to look for. One of the survivors that just spoke, what was the one thing you want people to take away from here when they leave? Listening, like actively listening. Like, you can hear someone, but are you actually listening to them?
Sure.
Like asking the right questions, like seeing something that you feel a little uneasy about, saying something about it. Like,
yep.
I say this to you all the time when I'm on the show. Like, you see something that's not right, say something. And, your one thing of being an active bystander could help somebody's life, could
Absolutely.
change their life. Like,
having all those vendors here too, that all, they're all sort of being weaponized in different ways, really showcases like how layered the suffering is when you're a victim. It's not as black and white as
it's not like you just go to one person and
That's
you can
right.
get everything taken care of.
That's
Even
right.
with my organization, we refer out all the time, like for our economic justice program. Like, we can help you find a job. What can we do? We can help you build a resume, but hey, this person over here might be able to teach you these skills to be able to better your life in that way. Or, like, hey, we offer crisis counseling, like immediate, but hey, here's a therapist that we can recommend you to go see on a regular basis. Stuff like that will help you out of the situation, like getting in a support group. What are the people in your support group going to offer to your healing process and stuff? So,
So we're just going to listen to them for a second here. They're calling somebody else in to have a conversation. But all these things matter when you're talking about a survivor out there paying attention to what happens to them. You can play an integral part. And we've talked about this before too. An integral part of being the visual part of some being trafficked in public. Because they actually go back and they check videos, they check people. There are things that you can listen to and hear as an innocent bystander that may be a very critical part of finding a person. And we also talk about the first 24 hours of being taken as being a very critical time. We live on the water. Things happen here at a whole different pace. Miami's it's got to be a hotbed just because there's so much access to water and so many different ways to flee with a human trafficking. Isn't that part of the reason we're number 3? Is we have access out?
number one thing is we're a vacation spot.
Yep.
Everybody comes here. They go to Disney World. They go to, they go to football. We have three NFL teams, right? I don't want to get that wrong, but I mean, we have huge sports. People want to go on a cruise. They go out of Miami. They go out of Tampa. They're all over the place. You come here for the sunshine and the beach. So it's so easy to just walk up to somebody in Miami and be like, oh, hey, you want to come party with us? You're on spring break. And the next thing you know,
and you're on vacation, so your guard's down.
Mm-hmm.
When in actuality, it should probably be the moment where it's amplified.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think we've got more people coming over. Okay. That's fine.
We're losing Amy.
If you want to send somebody
see you
over.
We
got a next one.
Oh, look at that.
We got another guy
Nice
right
meeting
here.
you.
It was nice meeting you. Pleasure.
So we'll slide in the next guest. And we're just going to rotate through like this. I'm John. This is Corey.
Hey, Tom.
Tom,
Chris.
nice to meet you. Or Chris, I'm sorry.
Chris.
I had the wrong name.
You're all good, buddy.
So,
That's why I have a name tag.
No
It makes
doubt.
it easier.
I gotta get one of those.
I'm going to hook you up big time.
There you go.
We're now talking about human trafficking. And what is it that you guys do?
Yeah, so we're Restoring Oaks. We're a nonprofit community alliance to prevent and end human trafficking. And so our mission as of right now, we just started in January of 2020.
Okay.
And as you can imagine, something
Tough
else
time to
happened
start,
in
too.
2020,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So we are focusing on education and advocacy right now because ultimately getting in front of the supply and demand and getting in front of people to help them understand prevention, how teens can be safe, how adults can be safe, how adults can, curb some of the things that help feed that supply is going to be ultimately how we change it.
Right.
But the long-term goal, we also want to get a safe house in Charlotte County.
Nice.
Because
And
Charlotte
it's
County,
needed.
it is absolutely needed, and Charlotte County is very central to a lot of hotspots.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was just saying, Hillsborough County. We're right south of that. You're able to get, as a survivor, you're able to get out of this situation that you probably put you in there and get you to a safe haven where you can get the care that you need. So that's the long-term goal. But then right now, we're also trying to just get in front of as many people as
So you're
possibly
attacking
can.
the problem from both sides,
Correct.
trying to stop it before it happens, and then if it unfortunately happens, how do we help these people afterwards?
Exactly. Just like Connie said in the session earlier, she would love for her business to just get out of business because we're able to completely get rid of
it'd be great if this
safe
wasn't an
houses
issue.
and sex trafficking. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing.
There's some beauty about having a guest in the house. Man, you're just a great interviewer. No, is really what it's all about, is getting information out in a really relaxed environment so that people on Facebook, on YouTube, and on the radio, they're driving down the road and they're trying to figure out what in the world is going on.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask this, how hard was it to start the project in 2020, and where you started, where are you at now? Because things have changed down here.
Yeah.
And it's kind of loosened up more so than anywhere in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
How's that advanced your position?
Yeah. I mean, it's been a slow process, and of course, this was my first kind of go at starting my own business, doing my own nonprofit. So, of course, learning the paperwork and all of that side of things has always been kind of a challenge. But we are at that point where we are able to host events and do events like this. And we just did a walk last week where we had people come out. And it was just a walk where I shared 15 minutes about human trafficking, and then people just walked united against something that they hated. And it was rainy, but we had 25 people show up, and we were able to just walk and just have a nice time. And, got connected with a youth group and got connected with Harbor Heights, which I'll be speaking at next week. And so just these little pieces that we're able to do, because ultimately that's the start.
So momentum is kind of changing.
Momentum is shifting in a positive way, which is great. And then, our thing is, we just need more volunteers. We just need more people to just want to jump in and be able to step up and be able to make phone calls and raise that awareness, because it's people oriented and it's people wanting to make that difference.
So if they were wanting to get information on how to contact you so they can volunteer, how would they do that?
Yep. So restoringoaks.org is the website. info@restoringoaks.org is my email address. You can certainly reach out to me about how you can volunteer, how we can help you out, and how you would help us out. But the biggest thing is just being willing to have the conversations. As parents, as guardians, as people who are in charge of kids, being willing to have those often difficult conversations with your kids, and being willing to tell them, okay, have you talked to somebody on social media that you don't know? Are you Is anybody giving you these
That's
modeling
right.
gigs,
That's right.
and be willing to talk to them about that, because that's the only way that we can
True.
curb some of these things.
That's right. I've heard it called eating the awkwardness. Like
Mhm.
just getting through that meal of
Yeah.
awkwardness real quick, and understanding that
Yeah.
it's invaluable if you can just get through that and talk about it. And
Yeah.
I think so many people need that.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
one thing that I've learned in doing this is people often just need love and security.
That's right.
And if any of that is missing at home,
Right.
they're going to find it elsewhere.
That's
And
right.
that's what traffickers
Yep.
really focus on, is providing that love and
That's
that
right.
security.
That's right.
And so
Even if they don't know
these-
how to talk about it, they're
Exactly.
just aching for someone
aching
else
for
to
something.
talk to them about it.
Exactly.
And you can,
Yep. And so just being able to listen, being able to come up to them and say, guys, I know this is going to be awkward,
right.
but we need to start this conversation,
That's
even
right.
if they've never had that conversation before. And ultimately, I think that kids will respect that, and they will honor that, and they will say, well, I'm not quite ready to talk to you about it in depth yet.
Sure.
But at least
But then oftentimes then they call later
Exactly.
when they come back. And
The dialogue is starting.
Right.
And you're part of the younger generation too.
Well, I don't know
compared
about
to
that
me.
anymore, God.
Compared to me, all right. So you are connected in a different way. People recognize you in a different way. But getting people to, even back in the theater days when you were in high school and college,
Mhm.
there were a lot of people that were just aching to have that conversation, and organizations like this weren't here.
That's exactly right.
And so I think it's going to open some floodgates for you down the road. You can speak more to that too.
I think that's well. I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? Is that, like, as long as you can take that first step and get yourself out there and make people aware of the fact that there is this place that they can go, these people they can talk to.
Yeah.
I think as soon as once that word spreads, which again is why we're trying to do it like this, and why they do this, and why the care ball happens,
Absolutely.
is like the more awareness you get, eventually, I think that there usually comes a moment where kind of the floodgates open.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing. It's also such a tragic moment where you realize how many people out there need help.
Absolutely. But the empowerment, that's the goal of Restoring Oaks and other organizations, is I want to empower you to be able to have this conversation.
That's
I can
right.
have it.
Yeah,
Like, I don't mind.
Right.
I'll listen. But
Right.
I want you to be able to have it.
it's true.
Because
And because all that healing
you are the
happens within.
primary resource.
Right.
You're the primary person that's going to be in their day-to-day lives.
Right.
And I want to give you those tools.
So I'll ask you a little bit about the event. Is that seeing the other partners that are and from this perspective behind the table and being able to walk through and introduce yourself to some of the players that you may or may not have ever met. How does that feel getting connected to the cause a little deeper?
Yeah, so the ability to see all of the organizations together, it shows how much passion there is for this cause. It shows how many people want to get behind it. And we say that we're a community alliance because we're not in competition with these other organizations. Like Kara said, we will refer as much as we need to. Our competition is, the strip clubs and all these places where all of this stuff is happening. And so we want to partner as much as we can. And so it's really encouraging to see all of these tables and all the people on the other side that are willing and saying, okay, this is an awkward conversation. This is a topic nobody wants to talk about. But we're here. We are ready to start talking. Now let's get this going. And it's been really encouraging and really empowering for us because we're so small and we're so
Right, exactly.
And new.
But when you looking to your left, your right, and seeing all these other people or these other organizations that are here to lift you up,
that have been in the trenches, absolutely. It's been phenomenal.
invaluable.
It's been really, really cool.
So I'll ask this because I know it's an easy answer for you. When you're in the trenches like this and you are brand new and you have a vision like you do, don't you feel a lot of support from these other organizations when you're out just trying to get a feel for who am I in the community? Don't you feel like you're here already? Like you're anchored already because you have other support systems around you?
Well, I know that CARE was phenomenal in helping us out. I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to make it today because I have a day job. This is just a volunteer thing that I have to do at this point. But I messaged Wendy saying, hey, I'm going to make it. And they were all hands on deck. They came and had a table at our little walk that we did. And so that mentorship that CARE has had, and then somebody who was on my board, she helped me in my schooling. I did school for psychology and emphasis in counseling, and she was instrumental in that. And so partnerships and connection is key for something like this, and it's really lifted me up and being able to move forward.
So I'm going to put you kind of like in the victim role for a second, only because it kind of plays out that way, because without all of these organizations, a victim would not feel welcomed in either. It would be very difficult to get the resources and everything up front.
Yeah.
You kind of walk in wanting to be in the role, had to open up, had to have the conversations. Same thing a victim does. And you had to open up the dialogue, and then everybody just kind of loved you and put their arms around you and said, "You're going to be okay. Let's just do this."
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you kind of where I first heard about human trafficking was from a brochure from another organization. And it just said kids starting at the age of 12 were sold for sex. And I was 18 at the time. This was 15 years ago. And I picked that up, and it just wrecked me.
Right.
And that was because an organization cared enough about these people to drop flyers.
Right, exactly.
And so I know, at least just from that simple experience, how impactful an organization can be. So everybody just working together to be that voice for the voiceless.
And that's what it takes, right? Is it takes a moment where somebody makes it clear to you that these are real human beings and this is really happening to them. And just like you, like they have somebody they love or somebody loved them and they want to have their life back, and it's been fractured in this way. I think a lot of us, it can be easy to think like, well, that's not my life.
It won't happen to me.
And you just keep going through, your business. But then when that moment hits where it really, where somehow you relate to it, or you it impacts you. I don't think that any of us are ever the same after that moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, who would have thought picking up a brochure 15 years ago would have led to this moment?
Right.
And
you're living proof. You have a full-time job, and you're doing whatever you have to do to make time to come here to hopefully make a positive impact in somebody else's life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want to say something over here, because you've been on the other side of it, where you weren't the victim, but you've known victims.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was raised by two of them.
Right. And so we've never really addressed that aspect of it.
Sure.
And your perspective is totally different than mine. I'm trying to get information out, but you actually have the heart that was in it early.
I've got people that I love very, very much that survived situations like this, absolutely, and then friends of mine as well that have. But I would say that whether it's my experience with it or my vicinity to it, or any of the survivors in this room right here, it's such an awful thing that it's singular for everybody. My experience with it is different than your experience with it will be, and every survivor in this room is connected because they suffered through it in one way or the other, but they're also all so unique and singular in their suffering.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that's really neat about what you two are doing together, because you have it, you just have it on the outside kind of looking in, and you're seeing, 40 million are being trafficked, and you look at that and that sounds terrible. And then you're coming at it from the story. You're coming at it from, I haven't lived through this because of those people in my life. And I think you have to balance those out, because if you say things like 40 million are being trafficked, some people are just going to say, okay, that's great.
Right.
Or some might just get overwhelmed.
Right.
And they say, well, what can little old me do?
Right.
Sure.
But, we're trying to get to the other side where it's just, there's 40 million, but it starts with one.
That's right.
You have the opportunity to save one person's life for the rest of their life, or save their life for that matter. And so the ability to include story and to include these survivors and be able to get faces with the cause and the problem is instrumental.
It's true.
And so that's really powerful.
And that one person that you help might get on a stage somewhere and talk to 1,000 people, and who knows how many people they get in the ear of and impact and make them realize that they're strong enough to run from it or to change their life. And
just planting seeds.
It's domino.
Absolutely.
I remember back to the first show that I did with CARE, and they actually received a phone call from someone on the hotline after we did the show live on FM 95, along with WKDW Facebook page and YouTube and my Real Talk. One phone call. One. I thought, only one? And then I thought, well, thank God it's only one.
Yeah.
And then I thought, thank God we actually did the show, because that one person
that's right.
actually got some help.
Yeah.
And at least had the number to call. And that the business partnerships that we've formed, the relationships that I've formed with organizations like CARE, now your organization, and we'll do more time together. throughout the next year, and get your information out in a lot broader scope, hopefully. That relationship, even one at a time, from somebody who hasn't been through it, and then somebody who has. I mean, how he got involved was the Care Ball and wanting to be part of it. And I didn't know his history. I didn't understand any of those things prior to the show. So you see a partnership here talking about something that I didn't know we were going to go this in depth and kind of touch home. But at the same time, he really wanted to dive in, and he's a great guy on top of it. But the love for the community, wherever you're at, is what you now demonstrated, is that no matter where you live, you want to get connected. You want to be part of it.
Well, like Thomas said, though, because it's one person at a time, and every single one person that something is happening to, you're one person, but you're everything to you. Your whole life is you.
Right.
I'm everything to me. Everything that I do, touch, taste, love, hate, all of it is just me, just one person.
Right.
And so every single person out there, they're everything to me, you know? And so, like, it doesn't matter sort of what the where the community is or what the movement is. If it's helping people, I think that we all sort of owe it to each other.
Yeah. Well, and there's been so many things that has dehumanized us.
That's true.
In so many different ways.
Right.
I mean, even with just how we've handled the past couple of years, there have been things that have caused separations and divisions and pointing fingers and finding ways that we can rehumanize ourselves, for lack of a better term, to be able to get back to every person matters, every life matters, and
fuse back together
to get us all, back to where we are. So that's why community events like this are so good.
Agreed, Thomas.
Absolutely.
And I know I'm watching the clock for you.
Oh,
it's
you're
3:30, and I know that you have a 4 o'clock
I
appointment.
do have a 4 thing.
And-
They can wait.
What's that? They
Wait.
can wait. You're
I
enjoying
can be
this too
5
much
minutes
now.
later, so yeah.
Yeah. So this I think it's really good to have this perspective with anybody that comes up. But I definitely want to have you back on the show. And if you'll get with Wendy and send up the next person, I would love to do 10 more minutes with them. But I'm definitely going to get with you, and we'll have more information out about you and what you do.
Right.
Because I think it's a huge part. Every time you get a little chip at success, it's just going to help you. But the nice thing, helping somebody like this right here, his organization.
Plug it again. What is
Plug it. Yeah.
Restoring Oaks, restoringoaks.org.
Yeah.
info@restoringoaks.org is our email address.
Right.
And just so you know, you didn't watch this because you were paying attention, but share this out to the community that you have, because she actually put your website up here. So you can get on Facebook and YouTube, share this information, encourage others, and she's going to do it again real quick. But your contact information is right there, and we'll do that throughout and get you your information out the best we can. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
and listening to you, I know you're going to be very successful. You got anything to add?
Just that it's inspiring. I love that you did just launch, and that you launched it, and then you were like, you hit a dead, just a brick wall with the pandemic, and to push through that. It's inspiring.
Well, it shows commitment too.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
absolutely.
So
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for your time.
Thank
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, and just ask Wendy to send
I
up
will
our
send the next
guest.
person.
But you shocked me because I didn't know your history.
Sure.
We really didn't talk about that
of course,
kind of stuff.
but,
And we've known each other.
you don't
for years.
know until you know, though.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think your perspective of what is on the other side. I mean, we do talk about the victim side a lot of times, but we don't get the family side of the victim side.
Of course.
And you unfortunately have two sides of that. But come on in, Erica.
Hi, Erica.
So we have our next guest coming in, and we're going to probably catch one or two more as we go on. And Wendy, you're wonderful.
Hi, Erica. I'm Chris.
And this is Chris Poole.
Nice
I'm
to
John
meet you.
Rawlings. Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
And we're live on Facebook,
Okay.
YouTube, and radio on FM 97.5. Sorry about that. But WKDW out of Port Charlotte, Northport area.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about what you do and what organizations you're with.
Sure. So I'm with Catholic Charities Diocese of Venice. So we have from Collier County up to Lake Sarasota.
Awesome.
Those will cover Henry and Glades. I'm specifically the program director for the anti-trafficking program. So for the past 7 years, I've worked directly with survivors.
In human trafficking, we know we're like number 3. We hate being number 3. I'd like to be number 48
Yeah.
in the whole thing. But you guys are busy, unfortunately. You know, you've got one of those unique jobs where you wish you were less busy.
Yeah. I always tell my survivors, my job is to run out of a job.
Right.
Yeah.
And so human trafficking, this is like a huge month for human trafficking, right?
Absolutely.
And you're trying to draw awareness to people. And we're in the height of season, which, you know, the last 2 or 3 years, I got to tell you, I don't know the difference between seasons anymore down here because people are moving down. But even that being said, it's a melting pot of people and they don't know each other. Does that cause some issues too when people are out in public and not paying attention?
I would say with human trafficking specifically, it's a mixture of everything. I don't think there's specific. Honestly, I would love to just run data to see if, like, is there more people? I mean, getting more survivors on this end of the year or that end. It's so, like, for me, at least in our Southwest region, it depends. If there's a Super Bowl, that keeps me busy. If there is a specific event, that keeps us busy. If there's something going on in specific counties, events are huge. So I don't know if it's because more people are coming here, and I can definitely see that. I would say that with the pandemic, that definitely has, shifted certain things. More people are at home, so I can definitely see that there's increased victimization when it comes to either domestic violence, child abuse, and obviously human trafficking.
And then I've got to think that during the national shutdown that we had, and I mean we're talking world kind of shutdown, that where you would see numbers increase on one side of things, the human trafficking victim had to drop some because people weren't out. They weren't accessible. It didn't. And that's shocking. That is actually shocking to me because those numbers, you would think you didn't have the huge gatherings and different things like that, but you did have a lot of people out by themselves and the internet. And we don't talk about that. That's something that's not really a conversation. Go ahead and hit that up a little bit. Because I bet you could run with that for days.
More people being victimized in the home, meaning like via webcams or whatever.
Right. So we learned today, right, that there is most likely people know they're traffickers, right? So it starts from the home. So now they're tracked up. Nobody's monitoring. They're not going to these social gatherings. They're not going to church where people are paying attention.
Yeah, they've got nobody to talk to.
Right. So now it's like the areas where they would be okay getting out of a situation, that no longer exists, right? So there's nobody like looking around, oh, this person has missed service, or this person is not coming into work. Like, now the norm is we don't see each other. Right.
It's almost like the cage door shut.
All right, just so you know, we're starting to wrap up over there.
So
We've got about
what we saw
5
a
more
lot is
minutes.
social
And then
media,
they're going to come back and we're going to report,
sites and
okay?
those things
Just
became,
giving you a heads up.
because now all they had to do, and think about it, people go into people's homes, right? That's how they run brothels and things like that.
Right.
So it's not like they have to go to a strip club for trafficking to occur.
Right.
So the numbers that you see are kind of steady, but different.
It's different, yes.
Yeah.
And what I would say is, even because I'm a victim service provider, so during the time that we shut down, it was really tough to do our job, right? I was getting calls like, oh, I need to, I'm getting out of the situation. Shelters were at capacity.
Right.
I call hotels. It's like, oh no, they're not essential workers.
Right.
People were shutting down. It's like,
all these typical routes of service that you usually have, they're gone.
Correct.
And then on top of that, it's got to just be maddening knowing that the issue is still happening. But now, like you said, all these people that typically would be calling in and being like, where is this person? Or I saw something, I'm saying something. Now they're not doing that.
They're not.
Unbelievable.
So how did you make that adjustment? I mean, I love the facial expression. You on the radio don't get to see it, but the sigh that she just gave, I think shows the frustration.
It is, yeah.
What do you do?
So I will never forget, actually, one of my case managers, like I said, I've been with the program for 7 years. She's been probably the last 3 with me, and she wrote me an email that to this day I always kind of sort back to it. Because she's like, you know what? She's like, Erica, today was a very rough day. Our work's already hard as it is. She's like, but our survivors see us like kind of as superheroes with capes. They need transportation. We got you. You need a place to stay. We have you. This time around, it was like all our superpowers are the things that we are able to do because we have that collaboration with partners.
Right.
It's at the door.
Right.
So here we are in the middle of a pandemic trying to figure out, I don't even know what this really means for us. In the beginning, our agency is not really shut down, other places are.
Right.
So it was very frustrating trying to get services for survivors and trying to look at someone who's being victimized and say, actually, you know what, I need to think about this because I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Right.
Right.
And it's kind of interesting to see from that viewpoint is because you're so used to just picking up the phone and making calls and then getting action.
Right.
And now you're kind of stopped. And we talk about the past. Listen, our past will catch up to us again at some point because things are now in place that we didn't have before because we've now gone through this in our lifetime. You know, in our lifetimes, we've never had a pandemic. Now it's checked off my list. I don't want another one. So we've been through it, but now we understand the outcomes of some of these situations, and they're not always good outcomes either, are they? Because when services are shut down, the hardest thing I can't imagine that you would want to ever say this is stay where you're at, but at some point, I don't know the answer to that because if you can't send them somewhere and get them safe and get them out, what are the options?
What are some of the
I called until someone, like, there are different hotels. Like, I hate resorting to hotels because, as we know, those are main areas of exploitation.
Right.
So to me, it's not a trauma-informed place to put a survivor.
Right.
Especially if they've been victimized at a hotel.
Right.
But at this point, I have no choice. You know,
Yeah, it becomes like as long as we can get you out of harm's way, it doesn't matter if it's if the room looks similar.
Right.
Right.
So at this point, I explain to a survivor. I usually like to give them choices. Like, we have hotel room, we have the shelter, we have this. These are options. What would you like to do? And I felt like for the first time, I don't know, a very long time, I felt like I was giving them one. It's like this is all they have.
Sure.
You know, and it is your choice if you want to go there.
Right. If somebody is a victim and like, how do they get a hold of you? Where do they go? All that stuff.
So we're partnershiped with the national hotline. So sometimes the national hotline will call us directly.
Okay.
We also have our own hotline number, which survivors can call us. We have a website. I mean, so there's different ways of it.
Sure.
Go ahead and give them.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
please.
yeah, it's with Catholic Charities Diocese of Venice. Our own hotline number is 239-738-8722.
And you know, during that whole change, I mean, you were working directly with CARE also, right?
Yes.
Well, or an organization down south. What's the organization called down south? Because we have Spark in Sarasota. We've got CARE here.
We have the Naval Shelter. We have the Youth Counseling and Treatment Center. So it depends which county.
Yeah. So just because it's different counties doesn't mean that you don't all connect here for this cause, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So why is that important?
It's key. Think about relocation. If a survivor has just been trafficked recently and they want to get away from the county, I'm not going to use ACT. I'm going to use somewhere else within the county that
right,
covers, right?
exactly.
So I might call Wendy and be like, does CARE have a bed?
So the easiest way to do it is when you take your...
And that matters, doesn't it? Because one of the things that happens to a victim is that they kind of feel trapped no matter what they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that first initial freedom phase of getting their self back is that key to really getting them to settle in again
Mm-hmm.
and being maybe humanized, so to speak.
And it takes time. It takes partnership, right? Because with Wendy, I mean, that's how me and her became so close. We worked case together, right? Because we were like, she's like, hey, I have this survivor here. I don't know. And I think it was her very first survivor. And I was like, let's do it together, right? And, you know, we have to. Then survivors have so many needs that it's
Okay, are you ready? And I feel like I should do like...
Right. Well, and that's why it's so crucial to have this community, right? It's so many different organizations that specialize in different areas, and like can all lean on each other and come together, and then, hopefully that community continues to build to the point where it outweighs the issue, and then any survivor that needs help, doesn't have to live too far.
That is the dream.
This is about...
Dream. That's my way out of work. That's what you should say, the dream. So in doing your job every day, and today, now we've changed. We're kind of through the pandemic, we're open. But the challenges that you went through during the pandemic, has that really
So,
enhanced
for our
what you
needs,
have
we
now
talked,
today?
like,
Because of
our
how
main
hard
focus
you
was
had
about
to
the
kind
media.
of defer and
I
dig,
just
and you had to
got
find different resources?
Yeah, are there things, did it evolve because of it?
One of the exciting things that came from that would be that Florida's launching tomorrow, actually, something called the Safe Shelter Collaborative. So now it's an app that service providers will literally say, I have a female, that is within this age range, victim of human trafficking, that needs a place, right? So it shoots out to the shelters, and within 15 minutes, I should have a live response. Versus me calling every single shelter and being like,
Sure.
hey, do you have a bed? Do you have a bed?
Is such a thing accessible to, say, a current victim or a survivor? Like, is there an app out there that the victim could get on their phone and they could, instead of having to worry about getting caught calling somebody or whatever, is there anything like that where they could say that I'm having this issue, who do I call, who do I reach out to, or it'll send out?
It goes to the national hotline, so they can text the national hotline and put them in place with the service providers. The Safe Shelter Collaborative, specifically for victim service providers, have been vetted so that they know that, for example, it's not a trafficker trying to get in bed.
Yeah, of course, it's legitimized.
Right. So they go through a vetting process.
And far beyond that is that I've talked to Care about their hotline, and that kind of was created during the pandemic because they had to open up communication avenues. And then the one thing that people always are gun shy about is that how secure is it? Is it something that they're gonna have my information, they're gonna keep it, they're gonna track me down? It doesn't work that way, does it?
Wait, specifically, but no, we're big on confidentiality. So
Right.
even, for example, for the Safe Shelter Collaborative, we don't put any names. There's nothing. Literally, there's just a gender, kind of an age range, and I have a bed. Everything else, obviously, would be once we actually have a bed, and we would, the survivor themselves would have to call and do that stuff.
So one of the things we talk about all the time is that it's the fear factor of actually reaching out. And with the app, I'm sure it works very effectively, especially with the younger generation who are so used to app and feeling good about actually utilizing that. And I hate to use that in the human trafficking sense, but any form of information or communication that they can have with you, confidentiality-wise, doesn't that change the whole perspective for them as a victim?
Absolutely. For survivors, I think even the types of trafficking and methods have changed over time. One of the biggest systems that we work on is empowering people, right? We live in a world where technology is crucial, and even though it might have been part of their exploitation, we have to teach them ways that we can use it.
Yeah, turn the tool on its head, use it to your own advantage. Yeah.
One of the police officers, and I use this a lot when I talk to people, and they ask, how safe is the area? And I said, well, safe as any area. You have to do your research, you have to do your background. You have to find out where you want to live and why. Check your police departments. That is out there. But the one thing that I always remember the police officer told me was the people who are trying to do things right to you, they work 24 hours a day trying to do it. Sound like a security system in your house. Don't know how to break into most of those. The reason they do is that's what they do all day long, is they figure things out.
Strategies.
I use that same thing with human trafficking because they're up in that game every day. They're using tools that we didn't have 20 years ago today, the internet, social media, all these things that everybody takes for granted sometimes. And the younger generation really puts down a whole lot of information about their life. Like where they're going, when they're out of town, where they're going out of town, what room they're staying in. Sometimes I look at social media posts and I'm like, do you understand how accessible you are to people who don't want to know where you're at? Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe highlight what they can kind of put some restraints on?
Sure, I think you hit it where it says privacy. We live in a world where we put everything out there. Right? Our friendships, most of the time now, it's like we text or we call each other on social media. We share a location on social media. So when I work a lot with adolescents specifically, it's more of like nobody's telling you don't have social media because it's kind of it's something that it's part of us now. right? But there's ways to be safe about it. There's privacy settings. What does that mean, right? And so accepting people that you don't know, right? And having them communicate with you, right? And I know it's like Haley talked about parents being involved. I think it's having those conversations early on. I think it's such a myth when people are like, if we talk about it, it's going to happen. No, let's talk about it before it happens because it's a matter of time when it's going to happen.
Give your contact information. And I know we do have another guest coming in, but we'll be talking again soon.
Sounds great. So yeah, I'm Erica Pineros with Catholic Charities Guides of Venice. Our hotline number is 239-738-8722.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. So you got to go. Chris, let them know.
Yeah, really, it's all about them. It's not about me and the cause. And just, if you're out there and you're being victimized, call these people, call someone, tell somebody. And if you're out there and you can help, then help.
And then we're going to be talking too. We're going to do a show together, really about his career and where he's been and what he's doing.
We'll talk about that another time.
Absolutely. But so join us again.
Okay.
Chris, thanks a lot.
Okay.
All right. Come on in. All right. So we're live on 97.5 FM. We've got our next group of people in. I want to start by doing something that I didn't do the last couple times, which is start by telling what company and your contact information. Go ahead.
My name is Joanne Benania, and I'm from Into the Jordan Ministries. We are a nonprofit ministry in Fort Myers, serving survivors of human trafficking all over Southwest Florida. Our contact information, our phone number, 239-308-0434. We also have a website, www.intothejordan.org.
So intothejordan.org. It's always org. Why is it org?
Because it's an organization.
I just had to ask because
it's not for commercial gain.
Right. So it's and I always ask the little questions that make a difference because a lot of people don't really understand the difference. .net, .org, .gov. You're dealing with the government on that one. .edu. So a lot of things happen when you're a different organization too, right? And the networking that you guys are doing at this event. How valuable is that?
Using the children. Let me just tell you, educating you can't do this on our own. No organization can solve this issue. We all have to educate. We all need to work together and collaborate so that we can help these survivors.
And there's only one or two survivors.
Also using the YouTube,
There's many, right? I'm just joking a little bit because sometimes on Facebook, radio, and YouTube, if you don't learn to smile a little bit about what you're doing, and you've got a great smile, and you're serious as all get out. There's the smile.
I also have something in my mouth that I should have probably gotten rid of.
You're fine, and I love the fact that I get to see that because it's a serious thing that can have some really significant happy moment outcomes if handled correctly, and with organizations like yours that get together and collaborate. Because one, leaving a victim where they're at, because that's advice.
Yeah.
Getting them on the other side of that. What does that mean to you?
Well, walking alongside, especially with our ministry, and that's something that we do. We have a work study program. And for what we have a resale store called the Fig Leaf Boutique. And with that and with our work study program, we get to walk alongside them and also lead them in just things that might be basic to one of us, but for them, it's huge. And also getting to the point where we also working with money and working with customers and having that structure for them. And when they graduate that program, that's huge for them, and it's also huge for us to know that we get to walk, that we saw that from start to finish. Even with the shirts that we're wearing right now, this is also part of our work-study program. It's designing shirts, it's using social media too, and using these outlets and using also art. And so, it's beautiful. It's still very hard, it's difficult, but at the same time, it's so much rewarding for us too to be able to see that.
So I watched a documentary, not a really documentary, but it's called Made. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
I've not seen it yet.
Okay, it was really interesting.
I've heard about it.
But I've been doing videos and shows with CARE now for a little over 2 years. And we were watching, my wife and I were watching it together. And it was
Are you talking about the show on Netflix? MAID?
made.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. And
You said it was a documentary.
no, I did say that, and I knew I misspoke when I said that because I was trying to remember which one because I watch Hulu and I watch all those apps, but that are out there. But the show itself really portrayed pretty true what goes on the victim side and what they go through on maybe being in a shelter, maybe going away to make that phone call, and trying to find a job. You know, the difficulties that come into play. And you guys are at a point where you deal with that. And you said something about the store, and I'm curious because in that they got to go to the store and they got to spend their money and pick things out.
Yeah.
Is that what happens?
Yeah, so with our store, we have an open door policy too, and that's either, you know, it's what you would more normally call like a break room, but for our girls, it's a drop-in center. So any girl that comes off of the street, we don't ask a whole lot of questions. It's not me, you know, pursuing information from you. It is what's considered, you know, like a safe haven, where they can get rest, they can get water. That's a huge thing that most people don't talk about. We hear a lot about food, but we don't hear a lot about drinks and water and other things that they need. We have a computer. You know, the library is a great resource, but some people don't want other people looking and seeing what they're
Correct.
actually doing.
Correct.
And that's for their safety. And we do have food and also clothing. We have backpacks too that we provide. You know, shampoo, conditioner, little things if they're not able to stay. And that setting too, because sometimes you can barely get to the door. I don't feel comfortable. I don't know what this place is. I'm walking into it and I don't know who they are. I don't know if they're going to want something out of me. So we do have little bags underneath our cash register so we can just say, here, this is for you. You don't have to step any further. It's that way.
And you know, these are all little things that experience kind of sets up for you guys too, because you wouldn't have known all these little things to do, and if you didn't have maybe some survivors tell you, or conversations with a team of people that say, listen, we've got to connect with people differently in this situation. And we just had this conversation a second ago where the other side works really hard every day at changing up the methods and advancing their trafficking cause in different manners. You guys are on this side of it trying to figure out what's their next move so we can counteract that move. And it's, while they get to take big swaths at chopping at their success story, don't you feel like sometimes you're just chopping away? And I say that because I think it's true that you're chopping away, but if you weren't chopping away, the problem would get massive. And even though it is massive, there would be nothing to settle things in.
And I think that's why we rely on our survivor leaders to kind of share with us, right? As a survivor ally, you know, we're not a survivor, but to get to listen to their stories, to learn from them. You know, like we were just talking about, you know, we might have come into this thinking, oh, we're going to help these survivors, but in turn, they're pouring into us. We're learning so much from them. So how we can help the next generation, how we can help that next survivor. And being at conferences like this, where we can network, identifying and targeting fires, strategize on ways that we can battle, you know, this spaces that there are on other Instagram.
And it takes a real core group like this. I mean, we're not talking about one organization here. We're talking about multi-organization attempt to combat human trafficking. And those organizations, human trafficking organizations, are all different. So they're not using the same platform. They're not using the same tools. They're all creating their own. And that, to me, it's got to be frustrating at the same time because, and really, Chris Coy just said it. Everybody in here who's a victim or a family of a victim, their stories are all different. So unless you have those leadership groups and you get a diverse feeding or feedback on that, that's got to be really difficult to try to figure out what's going to happen next and how to combat it. The little bag. I mean, the information, the little cards that they pass out, just the in even for the community listening, which we don't do really good anymore. I was walking through the mall the other day and I heard somebody at the counter really attacked, really bad attack, like embarrassing attack. And I just slid over and said, "Hey, can you help me with this?" I didn't need anything. I broke the ice. I broke the conversation because it was beyond embarrassing, but it was really abuse on a sales tactic side from a customer. And it was something small, but I didn't know. I did know, but I never practiced it until I started talking to Kara, because I would have normally maybe just walked by that conversation and said, "Oh, the salesperson will handle it. They'll." Yeah. And I was a sales guy, and I knew where I could go with it, but sometimes, and I'm using that as an example, but sometimes in the open dialogue in public. Yep.
I'm going to have to cut you off. You can stay on here, but you're going to have to go off the radio.
Yep. This is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio 97.5 FM saying thank you. Stay watching on Facebook and YouTube for a few minutes, and we're going to finish this up. But I appreciate everybody on the radio airwaves. You guys have been awesome. So, going through that and watching things change out and watching the conversation that I had change. That's really all it takes sometimes is somebody to interject. And we talk about it on the show with Kara and different organizations out there, but yours is no different.
In the back, I know
aren't you guys like the voice out there that's listening and taking in data and it's your perspective from your board is different than some of these.
Can you lower your voice?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I don't mean to be rude.
Nope, that's right.
Thank you.
Sorry. So I'll go a little lower.
So they should have training
how
at
do you
least
feel
once every
about
semester so that they can refresh their mind. Because I know I took a math
kind of
test
changing?
in August. I haven't
the just the public's involvement.
And even
and how they can
and
address
being here
things.
for parents and children
Because you are out here,
like
you
little kids,
are
like
pushing, you
even
are
middle
pushing
school,
this
high school, they
information
don't always
a
know
whole
the
different
signs.
way.
So you show a little kid, hey,
Sure.
this
So when I
location,
first
this is
came to
not
this
correct.
organization,
They have a little bit of
volunteering,
awareness
and I
of
was
what's on
outside of
human trafficking and abuse
it
and
was
things
outside
as
of
such.
a little
But
sub shop, and there was a young woman there, and our office space
and
was
like
upstairs,
announcements over the
and she was
speakers
having
in
a
the
drink,
schools.
and so I just thought
The
she was
hotlines
outside
and
having a drink,
provide resources.
and the director at the time
Hey,
went up to her and said, "Hey,
come
is everything
forward, but
okay?
here's
How are you doing?"
a number you can call
Initiated a
or some
conversation,
resources to help
and
you out.
was able to see that this girl needed help,
The little
and
sticky notes
she
in the
actually had
background,
just
which is
left her
also a good
trafficker,
idea at schools because
and
in elementary
and
school
shared
they
her
love to
story
write on
with
the
the
wall.
director who was a survivor, and within 30 minutes we had a backpack filled with
And
clothing,
the
we had
reason
her
why
bus
we
pass,
brought
and we were sending
this
her
up,
back to her family
we
in
chose
New
this
York.
option was not just because
So
of what
it's
I
kind
said,
of like,
but
when they talk
sometimes
about
teachers
hidden
and
in
resource
plain
officers
sight, like these survivors
lack
are,
knowledge,
like
and
they
they
just,
can be closed
I can
minded.
identify it now that I've been working with survivors, but before, and I think that's where we need America, right, from, what is wrong with you? Why are you being
All right, so I'm
going
going to speak to all of you out there. Does anybody have
right? Like looking at them and seeing them with compassion, right? Through eyes and lens of compassion.
I'm sorry.
And stepping in and getting involved if you can. I don't think you need to go in and try to rescue somebody. I don't think that's safe. But if you can diffuse a situation, if you can step in, if you can offer help, by all means.
And I'll take it over to you because I obviously you guys are really both trying to help and you're in the mix of things.
Mm-hmm.
How many hours a week do you guys put in? What you're doing?
And so there's a lot of different programs.
That's a tricky question
Because it
because
fluctuates, doesn't it?
and your mind's always consistently, even though the clock's off, even though you're done with your job, you're still thinking about this person, and it's no longer a coworker, it's no longer a client, it's a friend, it's somebody that's also mentoring you, and you care about them, and you care
Otherwise, I think we did
also
an awesome
what's going to
job.
happen next.
If you're
If they're not doing so
sorry,
well, you can't just stop caring for them and bothering them. So it's, and but I also have a family. I also have 2 teenagers. I'm married, and I also have things on the side that I care about. So that consistently, fluctuates on if my kids really need me, and I need to say, listen, I love you so much, but I need to also cater to my kids. And going along with Joanne's story, I think it just, so my husband is white. He is bald, and he looks very much.
Bald is beautiful.
He looks very much like you, and our daughter looks very much like me. And during the mask mandate, he was in Publix with her, and they were just getting dinner for the family. And the cashier looked at my daughter, and she was just like, "Are you okay?" Because she was wearing her mask. She sees a man that doesn't look like, her father. He has tattoos. He's bald. And she's wearing a mask, and she can't see her face. And my daughter's like, just nods. And she's like, "No, I'm asking, are you okay?" Underneath her breath. And my daughter's like, "This is my dad." And so my husband's just like, "No, this is my daughter. Like, she's safe." And it's uncomfortable asking those questions, but you need to ask those questions. And at first, it's easy to get offended, but at the same time, you realize that the cashier, it was brave of her to step in to say something might be wrong. I can either ask or not ask, and realize that I'm going to be thinking about that poor girl the whole entire time.
Or seeing them on the news the next day.
Yeah. Or boy,
Yeah.
Just with that, these are, it's a grown man and a young boy, and should I be concerned with that? Because it happens with boys too. So.
Well, great stories. I appreciate your time. Give your contact information again to everybody out there listening.
Into the Jordan Ministries. Actually, can I show the back of our shirt?
Sure,
so,
please.
So you can at least see what we have.
Absolutely.
But, also, one of our survivors designed and made.
Can you offer educational services? We have a lot of survivors that are going through and trying to get their GEDs. They need to be tutored. What can you offer?
Is that a good shot of it?
Yep. So, Into the Jordan Ministries, you can text HEAL to 239-308-0434. That's our direct line. You can call us. That's our office line. If you need help, you can reach out to us if you want to volunteer, if you want to get involved, if you want to just learn more about what you can do. Please reach out to me.
What's the back of your shirt say?
It says, "I have come into the world as light so that whoever believes in me will not remain in darkness." So it's a scripture, 12:46.
How about that? So that was actually designed by
A lot of things can buy.
Survivor.
We work in another country employee.
And that matters in the grand scheme of things, because doesn't that give them some independence back? Doesn't that give them some confidence back as they're getting involved?
To see something that she's designed come to fruition, and to see people wear it, and proudly, it is very empowering, and that's what we want to do. Is
I
empower our
appreciate
girls.
everything you guys are doing. Keep up the good work. I'm sure we'll talk again. It is valuable that you guys are coming up from Fort Myers and that you're joining forces, because it takes a huge team of people going in the same direction with the same common goal to conquer this issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is John Rawlings with WKDW 97.5 Real Talk Radio saying thank you. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you guys soon.